Welcome into the midweek edition of the Locked On Packers Squad Show. I am your host. My name is Brandon Sneide. And Week 10, ladies and gentlemen, is not just another game. It is time for Matt LaFleur to silence the haters.
I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers, and Tucker Kraft is out, and it's a bummer. Romeo Dobbs joked that he's in a better place, but the Packers have plenty of options to keep this offense on the tracks.
I think there are plenty of options. I want to see how these tight ends are going to step up, and the receivers are going to have to step up as well.
Go Pack Go! It's the Packers Squad. Everything Green Bay Packers every week, covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Titletown. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the frozen tundra with all the cheeseheads, the Packers Squad Show starts now.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. You will certainly find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for the fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. As always, thanks to each and every one of you for making Locked On Packers part of your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Packers back under the bright lights, hosting the defending Super Bowl champs, the Eagles. It feels like a playoff rematch. It certainly feels like a little revenge, if you ask Jordan Love, on the top of the mind of the Green Bay Packers. Can they slow Jalen Hurts down and that high-flying attack coming off of a bye week? We're, of course, breaking that game down coming up. Plus, we'll dive into the group chat later on. We'll give you our extra points and our final score predictions at the end of the show. But as I mentioned, it is Week 10. It is prime time. The Packers coming off of a loss. The Eagles coming off of a bye week. The defending Super Bowl champs at Lambeau Field. Peter, kick us off this week. This Philly team going to be quite the test for Green Bay. The fewest giveaways this season. The best team in the red zone as far as touchdown rate goes. Jalen Hurts is tied for the most touchdowns in the NFL with 20. They get A.J. Brown back. They've won 3 straight against the Packers, including ending the Packers season a year ago. How we feeling, Peter, going into Week 10?
I want to remind you and everyone else, the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles are definitively not the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles.
That's fair.
When that team was the best defense in the NFL. That is not what the Packers have on their plate coming up on Monday night at Lambeau Field. This defense has been significantly worse. And part of the reason is Darius Slay is not in the building. Their pass rush, they don't just have hockey waves of guys to throw at you. Milton Williams is in New England. Brandon Graham is coming off retirement this week. And their back seven has not played at the same level because Darius Slay plays in Pittsburgh. And we saw Darius Slay a couple weeks ago. The cornerback cliff comes for everybody. Father Time undefeated in all of this. This Eagles defense is much more gettable than last year's defense. And don't forget, the Packers defense or the Packers offense had no problems with the Eagles defense when this team was healthy in week 1 on an ice rink in Brazil last year. So that's where I want to start the show. Let's make sure we are comparing this Packers team with this Eagles team, not this Packers team with last year's Eagles team, because that Halloween's over would get a little spooky.
Coach.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've been a part of some teams that have won games that maybe they shouldn't have won. You've been a part of teams that have lost games that maybe they should not have. And the Packers are coming off of a game where they were 13.5-point favorites. Coach, that's the biggest upset in since 2023. The Packers falling to the Panthers. What's the messaging like in the locker room, in the building during weeks like this? And it's a little bit of a weird week, too, for the Packers, because not only are they coming off that loss against the Carolina Panthers, but now they have an extra day, right? They play on Monday night, so they got an extra time to kind of, sit in that loss and figure out, make their rights turn, their wrongs turn into rights. So what's it like in the building after a loss in which most of the team feels like they should have won?
Well, it's amazing, guys. The 10th week. How fast did that go?
I know.
10th week, we're already there. Here's the thing. When you lose a game, especially a game at home in Lambeau, and we've already talked about, you got to win all your home games, guys. You just have to, for the numbers at the end of the season, to win that. But here's the deal. it's a reset. And one game doesn't make a whole season. And I say it every week, and you guys get tired of me saying it. This thing is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And what they have to do is they have to go ahead and regroup and find out what was the shortfall last week against Carolina. Where did we fall down? And I think the first half we fell down, right? And then defensively, we didn't show up. I mean, we've got one of the best defensive lines. And Peter, we were talking about it, and Brandon, we were talking about during the week. I mean, you have to have your money guys have to be able to produce. And it was like crickets with those guys. And it needs to be better. And the thing is, it's crickets, and they had as beat up of offensive line, probably more so than what the Packers had. So they got to show up this week, and I think they will. And sometimes this loss was an embarrassing loss for the Packers, and I'm sure the coaches went in there and say, guys, that's not the standard that we set. And
they know that.
Yeah, good teams don't play down to their competition. We've done it twice this year.
Well, and that's what I want to get to with Peter is you do it in week 3 against the Browns, then you do it right away in week 4 against the Cowboys. I think they played down to the Dallas Cowboys. Certainly started off that game right, Peter, but eventually tailed off. And then you did it again against the Carolina Panthers. It's a trend, right? Like, it's a trend that this team plays up and down to their competition.
Well, I want to throw this at Jags. I got a lot of stuff I want to throw at Jags today, and I can't wait to get to all of it. But there was a great stat. Ben Solak, who writes for ESPN, used to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network over at Locked On NFL Draft. He found this stat, Jags. And if you look at Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love in games where they are 7.5-point favorites or more. So games you go in and you go, all right, we know we're better than this team. Average depth of target. So how far are they throwing the ball down the field? When they're heavy favorites, Jordan Love's depth of target, 6.5 yards. When they're closer in there, a touchdown or less, his average depth of target is 7.8. So almost like we're talking about 1.5 yards further down the field. When they are an underdog of a touchdown or less, it's 8.5. And when they are more than a touchdown underdog, it's almost 10 yards down the field. I can't think of a better illustration of what I see as Matt LaFleur's conservative calls relative to his opponent, where when they're a touchdown underdog, they're letting it fly. Let's go. Like, let's try and he calls the game freer. And it seems like he calls the game tighter. I didn't have any way to quantify it until I found that stat. And I don't know if that matches what you think you're seeing with some of this stuff, that it feels like when the team thinks they're going to win, they just want to play just well enough to get the win. And then in these games where they're like, okay, it's these marquee games, the Lions this year, the Steelers this year, all of a sudden they're playing a different game. Do you see that when you watch this team?
You know, the thing is the number, and again, Peter, I'm just amazed. I mean, just again, I've never been like that big of heavy in the stats there, because I'm old, but those stats almost seem like they'd be flipped, right? Where
you'd want to be more aggressive down the field against a bad team. You'd think just knock them out.
I mean, those stats, and as I'm listening to you say these, and it's like that thing needs to be flipped. I mean, Peter, I'm going to say, let's say the Suburban Conference. I don't know if that was when you were playing quarterback.
I played in the Greater Metro, but same thing.
Well, it used to be the Suburban Conference, but anyway, like when you were playing, who's a crappy team? Central.
Well, no, when I was there, Hale, West Dallas Hale.
Okay, well, I got it. They live right down the street. I went to junior high school with most of those guys. So you either went to Central or Hale. But the thing is, like, when you play a bad team, don't you want to just step on it and bury them? And the thing, like I said, those stats you just told me, was like, wow, I would have thought just the complete opposite of what it should be.
Right. You'd want to come out with confidence against the team you're supposed to beat. Let's just come out and let's bury them right away. I mean, that was certainly, I mean, if we want to do this, that was certainly our approach to Hale. I mean, I think we scored. I didn't even play in the second half of that game, I think, my senior year.
Well, because you were just lighting it up and empty.
Yeah, you're right.
That's right. What you're doing. But the thing is, I really think, and I think I've mentioned this before in the show, is that if you're playing and you want to start fast, go freaking no huddle to start the game. Go.
Why don't they do that, Brandon?
Go.
Why don't we see? We saw that the touchdown they scored to tie the game. They didn't need to go no huddle on that. Like I think they got the ball with 6 minutes left. Yeah. They didn't need to go no huddle, but they did, and they marched right down the field. And oh, by the way, Luke Musgrave, they were on sail coach on the first play, and they hit it. And it's like, where was this all game, guys? What are we doing?
Yeah, I don't understand why again, it's just flipped for me. It's just in my mentality when I was calling plays, and it's just like, man, when we get a lesser team, and that would be the message all week ago, guys, look, we're going to just step on this thing and get ahead of them. Because what happens with bad teams, Brandon, right? They want to just like, oh, hell, here we go again, right? They do. I mean, that's just
Panthers just got their
and the Packers were right there. They were right there to do that. I mean, that Savion Williams fumble, Peter, that was your turning point on Sunday after the game. If the Packers, and I know we're moving on to Philly, but if the Packers go up 7-0 in that ball game against the Panthers, that you're probably right. They're probably sitting back like, we're on the road. It's a little chilly out here coming from North Carolina. We're getting our butts whooped already on the first drive, and the Packers already forced us to punt. Like, here we go again. And it's just the little things that this team hasn't been able to do. And speaking of little teams, Peter, why is this tell me why this Packers team in the second half can score the most points per game in the league right now, 15.9. But in the first half, they rank 26 in the NFL at 9.5. I don't understand.
Why? It's the second quarter. Because if you look at the first quarter stats, they're one of the best first quarter teams in the league because they don't give their defense. I think they've given up one first quarter touchdown all year. So like this is a defense that comes out with their hair on fire, and the offense just doesn't have the same sort of aggressive approach. And I can't make sense of it. I really can't. And you know what? I just like, I don't think they're going to do that against the Eagles. And I think they know that they can't do that. And so that's what's so frustrating about this team. And I get it. When I hear the national media, I think the national media gets the Packers wrong regularly. And it's why Locked On Packers exists, frankly, because we're serving an audience where, like, if you just watch the big shows, you're not getting the right stuff. But if you watch this team early on, like, the offense is just not, it's just not where it needs to be. And what's so frustrating is, Matt LaFleur is a good coach. And like, the play, the series Jags down in the red zone where they call the same play twice. Yep. Like, can you ever think of in the red zone in the NFL why you would call the same exact, you call the same play twice? Matt LaFleur is, what's so weird is he'll get big brained in these moments. And he's like, I've got the perfect weirdo call for this. But then on third down in the red zone, you're going to call the same play you just called that you just saw them. Like, that's the thing that I can't make sense of with Matt LaFleur. That's so frustrating because I know he's a good coach. I know he's smart. I know he's a good play caller. And it's like he just gets in his own way sometimes. I just want to say, Matt, he needs someone on the staff to go, dude, let's go. Like, let's buck up and let's move. And Nathaniel Hackett, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Nathaniel Hackett is doing some consulting work for the Packers, right? Started in training camp. He's apparently helping the defense. I kind of want them to just bring Nathaniel Hackett back into the room because I felt like
he's remote right now, right? Is that correct? He's kind of working remotely.
Yes. Yeah. He was there in camp, but like in 19 and 20, he was such a useful, let's just bounce some stuff off. And I feel like when you have that sounding board, it just is really beneficial for you. And like, Jags, I'm sure you were in meeting rooms where Mike McCarthy wanted to do something, and whether you pushed back or whether you offered some sort of other detail, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. We don't know what Adam Stenavich does and how involved he is in all of this. But I just feel like to have a veteran hand that's been there and called plays and been in those moments, I would love to have someone like Nathaniel Hackett to just be like, hey, Matt, let's just like, can we run dagger for 10 more times? Because every time they do, it's open. And so let's just keep calling it until they prove they can stop it.
Yeah. I think that back-to-back play you were talking about, it ended up being quads to the left. And it was a single wide receiver to the right. I don't know who the guy was, whoever the X receiver was. But the thing is, if you have numbers, you throw it to the quad side. Quads is sometimes really hard to defend because you have an extra person out there, right? And just the way,
especially against quarters, right?
Exactly. And if they have quarters, though, you still have a single to the single receiver side. and they ended up throwing it to the quad sign, and it wasn't good. But I get the calling back to back if it's there. Right. And I don't know if it was there or not, but that was a double read.
It was. They didn't execute it. Like you end up being a much smarter play caller when your guys execute the thing, right? Like,
well, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm listening, Peter.
No, that like, it's just like, it was one of those plays where they did have the numbers to that side. They just didn't block anybody. And so like,
well, that usually helps, doesn't it?
It's hard when you don't block anybody. Like but that's why I'm like, hey, can you call a play where you don't need 8 guys to execute, where you just need one guy to win on his route and let Jordan Love go make a play? Now, I'll say this, guys. I went back and watched the all 22 of the Panthers game. There were 2 or 3 times Jordan just missed. Like, guys are open and he just doesn't see them.
First play of the game.
First play of the game, he's got Luke Musgrave wide open on a corner. They don't throw it, and it's a dagger call, coach. Like, the dig on that is got to be your first read. I don't know why he doesn't let it fly, and he doesn't. And then they had a play in the red zone later in the second half where they've got Dobbs. He runs a little. He kind of outside releases, but then works back inside on a post. It's a touchdown, and Jordan, he fades to nowhere, and they try and call it again on third down, and it's not there. And it's like, sometimes you just have 2 or 3 chances in a game to hit those. And the Packers didn't. And when you only have 7 drives, that's just not a thing. Now, to bring this back to the Eagles, Brandon, they've been playing great lately. This is the number 1 team, the Eagles, in 3 and outs this year. No one goes 3 and out more often than this Philly team. So when I want to say, look, forget the 2024 team. This 2025 team is not set up the same way to say, we're going to play too high. We're going to play quarters all game, soft zone. You're going to have to throw everything underneath, and we're going to run the ball, and this is going to be a 7-possession game. It's just not who the Eagles are. It hasn't been who they've been consistently all season. And so they're not set up in the same way to make the Packers play the way that they did on Sunday. I feel like Matt LaFleur has been such a good coach adapting over time that he's, with the Tucker Kraft stuff, like, the best game plans I can think of Matt LaFleur, I think of like 2019 against the Chiefs when they have no receivers. They're throwing corner routes to Jake Kumaro, and it's Aaron Jones on sluggos. And the play of the game is 3rd and medium. They put Aaron Jones in the slot. He runs a little out route against a linebacker, and you win the game. That's when Matt LaFleur is at his best. And so I feel like we're going to get the best version of Matt LaFleur on Monday. And you said it at the open, Brandon. This is a prove-it game. I said this on Locked On Packers yesterday. This is Matt LaFleur's moment to be like, hey, no, here, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to put him on the table, and they're going to make a heavy sound when I put him on the table, because this is what I'm capable of being. This is what I'm capable of doing.
Any concern with the Packers' run defense in this one, Peter, before you put those on the table, or hopefully Matt LaFleur put him on the table? Barkley only has 1 game over 100 yards this season. His yards per game are down. The Eagles obviously are coming off of a bye week. His 100-yard game was just against the 2-7 New York Football Giants, so nothing to go crazy about. But on the flip side,
they have to play disciplined.
Right. And we didn't see that, in week 9 against the Panthers. But the difference, though, Peter, is that Jalen Hurts with the deep ball has been pretty darn good this year. Like, it's been a little bit surprising for me. I'm not a Jalen Hurts hater, but I'm like a level above it.
I am.
I don't believe in him as being a top tier quarterback, but attempts, completions, pass yards, the touchdown to interception ratio for deep passes, according to Next Gen Stats, I mean, they're all top 3. And so when you marry that with the run game, that's where it can. You didn't have that fear against Carolina. I mean, Bryce Young only went for 102 yards in that game, and you lost on 20 attempts. That's my fear with this game, Peter. Is that
I get it.
You can run the ball and pass the ball.
Rico Dowdle got them, and if you look at that last drive happens because Bryce Young escapes the pocket, second reaction play, gets a first down. I mean, that was a big one. Devontae Wyatt's got him dead to rights and can't finish the play. And then you get that, it's the cutback. Rico Dowdle, Evan Williams overruns the play. Very uncharacteristic of Evan Williams. Overruns his gap by a lot. And they've just not, so this is one of those things, Coach, and I would love to hear your perspective on how a coach is going to help them in these moments. When you preach, let's run to the ball, run to the ball, run to the ball. I want 5 hats on the ball at all times. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes that can make you susceptible to the cutbacks and some of those, if you're going to run long traps and wind backs and all these other kinds of plays, that can happen. So how do you stay focused on, we want to rally to the ball? I want to see 11 guys in the frame when I'm watching the all 22. I want to see when I'm watching the TV copy, I want to see all 11 guys in the frame while also playing disciplined. How do you ride that line? Because it seemed like it would be a tough line to ride.
Well, I think you're going to have to get as many hats to the ball carrier as you can, especially with this guy.
Yes,
I know he hasn't had the numbers that he had last year, but I still think you have to be able to tattoo that guy and put it on him. I think the thing is, when you're such an aggressive front, the best way to throw the ball is play action, because what you do is you end up stripping the underneath coverage on the second level, especially if your running game is going good. And if you can get behind the second level, the third level, which is the secondary, there's some really big plays to have. But I don't think that your philosophy changes as far as getting guys to the ball. I mean, you have to rally the ball to tackle that guy. Because like just one guy, how many times last year did he show us like, that's just not going to happen?
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. And again, guys, I don't know. Brandon, Peter, you could probably tell me, has their front changed at all as far as offensive guys, or are they playing with the same dudes?
There's some turnover. The right guard is different. Mekhi Becton left in free agency, and they've had some injuries up front, and that's why they've not been quite as good along the interior. They've not been able to exert themselves the same way that we're used to. What's interesting, coach, is they have gone to a more under center game, and that has been key for them. The Packers defense, the best team in the NFL against shotgun runs. And this Eagles team has made some adjustments. They've gone to more under center play action, and they've said, we're okay not having, like we talked about this with Louis DiBiase for our crossover show that'll be in your feed if you're listening to this on Thursday. That what they've been able to do is they've said, we're going to take away some of the quarterback run. So shotgun zone read, this is college, high school stuff. Mm-hmm. They're doing less of that and more getting to under center, play heavy personnel, and then play action off of that. And they're taking their big shots, even if it's just 2 or 3 guys in the pattern there. If I'm the Packers, I'm like, we dare you, right? Like Xavier McKinney in the back end. I'm fine with you trying to take those shots. We saw in week 1 last year. I mean, they got 2 picks off Jalen Hurts, and Xavier McKinney made the great play. They're trying to get a chunk play down the field, and he comes from the other side of the field. It's a too high look. He comes across and undercuts a route. Like if they're going to try and take those shots down the field, I'm not saying I want to maybe dare them is oversimplifying it, but I want to make them make those kinds of throws. If you're going to live creating some explosives, fine. For me, I'd be okay with that. But that's not, Brandon, how they played in the playoff game. Like they played 2 high safeties. They said, if you want to run. We know you're not going to throw to the middle of the field because Jalen Hurts doesn't do that. We know you're not going to throw intermediate passes because Jalen Hurts doesn't do that. They're a layups or 3-pointers offense. Like it's 80-yard touchdowns or it's screens, and that's basically what their passing offense has been. The problem for them is they've hit on some of those big plays, and the Packers have to stop that. They are the best team in the league stopping explosive plays. The Packers are. So I'm going to lean on that if I'm Green Bay, and I'm going to say Saquon Barkley. This, as weird as it sounds, you're going to have to beat us. I think that's going to be the mentality for the Packers.
So here's the thing, like I'm going against that, and it was interesting when you said like underneath, like that's the unicorn, right? Nobody ever gets underneath center anymore, not very, very rarely. But I think that the play action pass is a lot better underneath center than it is in the gun. It's more action, right? And I think that.
By the way, the Packers have been more successful shotgun play action this year than under center, right? Which is a little weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, but they're more of a shotgun team, I think.
They're more of a gun run team, yeah.
Yeah. But I just like when you're underneath center, like the downhill run looks downhill.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, it really does. But if I'm playing the Eagles this week, which we are, I don't want to be in a too high, and give them a light box with that running back. I'd rather bring your poison safety down, play single high, and you're going to get a lot more single high if they are playing heavier. Peter, as you're saying, if they're playing heavier personnel, you're going to get a single high.
Yeah.
You know, with an extra guy in the run fit in the D gap. So
I'm okay with that. I think what you're going to see is Jeff Hafley. I think we're going to see like the sort of the Fangioist, which is, you know, coincidental because they're playing Vic Fangio this week. But you're going to see the Fangioist defense that we've seen from the Packers this year, where they're going to show too high and they're going to spin a safety down. And you're going to have to guess which guy is coming down. I think you're going to see a lot more. Last week, we saw a lot more Xavier McKinney in the box, and it paid off. He had the sack fumble. He had the interception, almost had another interception. Now that was in coverage, but I think getting Evan Williams in the run fit and having Xavier McKinney patrol that deep middle, I would feel pretty good about the Packers' chances. The one time they got beat in that Brazil game was when they tried to play man coverage and Ja just got worked by A.J. Brown. And by the way, we might see Jair Alexander as their starting boundary corner this week. I would bet the Packers are going to go at him because the last time we saw Jair Alexander on the field, he looked bad against the Ravens and against some Bills receivers that are not all that good. Like I think it's over for Jair Alexander, and that's a bummer. And maybe he's going to be motivated, whatever, this week. But like, how are you not motivated to play Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in primetime football? I think there are some opportunities for the Packers to attack this defense. And that, to me, Coach, I've said this for years. Your best run defense is your offense. If you can score, you make it hard for teams to want to stick with the run game. And I think if the Packers are able to score, if they're able to start fast, you go out there, you take the ball, and it's 7-0. Like, you're going to put a lot of pressure on the Eagles to have to come from behind. I know 7-0 is not a lot, but to feel like they have to throw the ball to win, that's where they're not as comfortable, I think.
You know, the thing is, you have to be very, very disciplined to be able to keep running the ball. Just because human nature says, like, you know, we need to get some points on the board, and it's like, what are you saying? It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Yeah. Like, and sometimes, you know, as a ball coach, you want to really be aggressive, but you can't give up on the running game. I don't think you can do that.
The good news for the Packers, they play up to their competition. They'll have the Super Bowl champs at Lambeau Field on Monday night. The bad news, they lost their top receiving target last week in Tucker Kraft to a season-ending ACL injury. Who needs to step up? And now, where does the pressure lie for this Packers offense? We debate coming up right after this. Today's midweek edition of the Locked On Packers Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action other than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game so much more exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up. Once again, new customers, $300 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. After sustaining an ACL tear in his right knee, ending his season, Tucker Kraft officially placed on IR this week. That obviously ends his 25-26 campaign. And boys, he was on his way to an all-pro season. There's no doubt about it. Leading the team in receiving touchdowns as well as receiving yards. A tough loss for the Green Bay Packers. I don't think any of us are going to argue that. Coach, in your opinion, from what you have seen from this team this season, from this offense, who has to step up for this Packers team now that they will not have Tucker Kraft?
I think Watson's going to show up. And it's if we could get from Musgrave, let's say 70% production on what Kraft got. And I'm just sick. I was just sick when I saw him because I thought he was on pace to be 1,000-yard receiver at tight end.
Oh, he was. Yeah.
You know, and I've been saying it since I started watching him this year. But I think that the receivers are going to have to step up down the field. I really like Watson. I think he's a big target. Dobbs has been he's been very productive. I would really like to see Golden get involved. I really would. And I don't know. I heard today that his shoulder he was going to be okay with that. But I'd like to see him get involved. Give him a shallow cross. Doesn't have to be always down the field. Give him the ball in space and use that 4.3 speed. And just give it to him, and let's just see what he can do after the catch. but I think that the receivers are going to have to step up. I don't think Green Bay is going to be as heavy a 12 team. I don't think that third tight end is as good as those first two. I don't, but that's okay. Then we're going to be in more in 11 and get some more speed on the field. And, and once you get that, if they're in 11 and they start playing a bunch of too high, then Jacobs has got to eat. He's got to be productive. But I think it's going to be you're going to have to make that up with Kraft. And again, it just makes me sick at what happened to him.
Peter, who you got? Who needs to step up for this team?
Well, for me, it starts with Luke Musgrave. And I think it's easy to forget that in 2023, when those guys were both drafted, and I know Musgrave was the higher drafted player, but the guy everyone was raving about in rookie camp, in training camp, early in the season was Luke Musgrave. His size, 6'6", 250, he was, and Matt LaFleur, I remember Matt LaFleur like gushing about Luke Musgrave.
He did.
There was a day when they have GPS on all these guys, little GPS trackers. There was a day in training camp where Jaden Reed ran low 4.4s, high 4.3s. Christian Watson ran 4.35, where they said the fastest guy on the field one of the days of camp was Luke Musgrave in terms of like miles per hour. That tells you the kind of athletic ability that he has. You want to play too high, you want to play cover two especially. How about a seam ball from that guy? That was what their answer was in 2023. And to Coach's point, when Luke Musgrave went down with the lacerated kidney, they used Christian Watson in the slot, big slot, vertical. If you're gonna play against quarters, your ability to take that number two and run him right at the safety. Well, that safety's got to run with him. And so I don't think Cooper DeJean can run with Christian Watson. I don't think Andrew Makuba or these Eagle safeties can run with Christian Watson. And so if you can protect, you can get down the field. Coach, are you ready for this? Are you sitting down?
I am.
One thing I want to see, I want to see big number 71, Anthony Belton, on the field, 6 offensive linemen. I want to see that, because the reason I think that this 12 personnel has been really good for the Packers, the 2 tight end sets, 5th in EPA per play when they're in 12 personnel. But one thing they have not been able to do is exert themselves on the ground in 12 the way that you'd like. And part of that is they don't have that, like, I think of always like Matt Spaeth and some of these guys in the late 90s, early 2000s, where when you had that second tight end, it was basically an offensive lineman, right, Coach? Like you had a guy that was like 6'7", 265, and he was only in there really to move bodies. Yeah. And the Packers, most teams don't have that guy anymore. And put that guy on the field, make them play base. And what do you have? You have an extra offensive lineman. How are they going to match? They're not going to bring a defensive lineman on the field. No, they're going to play with whether it's if you're an odd front, you're going to play with 3. If you're an even front, you're going to play with 4. You're going to play with that extra linebacker on the field. Well, if I've got a 330-pound offensive lineman and you've got a 235-pound linebacker, it's advantage me in the run game. So let's come downhill, play with 6 offensive linemen, and then when you go to the play action, it's Luke Musgrave, who's a better athlete than Tucker Kraft, against linebackers. I went back and I watched every catch that Luke Musgrave had in 2023, 2024, and 2025. All of them basically are him in space against linebackers, and all he does is make those guys look slow. So I understand Nakobe Dean is an athletic linebacker. Jihad Campbell, athletic linebacker. Zach Bond, athletic linebacker. It's a different thing when you've got 6'6", 250 and you can fly like that. So a couple times, Coach, the first play of the game, they run dagger with your dagger side to the left side. It's Watson and Dobbs. You've got the big over or post or whatever you want to call it in the dig. And then Musgrave on the right side, they're in 12. And he runs the corner. It's wide open. It's wide open. And so later in the game, they run the same thing from trips to the left side. And instead of the corner, it's a deep over. And again, the deep over now is clearing space and you can run that dig in behind. So there's a lot of ways I think they can get Luke Musgrave on these runaway routes and have 6 guys on the field. You go under center play action with 6 offensive linemen on the field. Yep. Like Luke Musgrave can be a weapon for you. Yep.
Well, the thing is, what you're going to probably get with 6 O-linemen on the field is a single high, right? And what does that open up? It opens up seams. And I'm not as familiar with Musgrave as you guys are, because I haven't been around.
Coach, you joined the club. Not a lot of people are. He hasn't played a ton.
I didn't know that. He got hurt and all that.
He's had some very unfortunate
injuries.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Before, I mean, we say dagger and stuff a lot, Peter. But what a dagger is, right? It's an 18-yard in cut, right? So just so like all the guys that are listening, that's what that is, and it's a deep route down the field. Now, bringing in the sixth offensive lineman, they have a problem sometimes fitting that. And what people are doing is they're putting that extra lineman as a tight end, okay, and then they take the other tight end and put him outside of him as a wing. And then people are playing like 13 and putting another guy outside of that. And guys, here's the problem. You know what? A lot of more people you've seen it, right? It's a copycat league, but it's 13-ish personnel, but you add an extra gap when you have a tight end, a wing, and a guy outside of him. You create an extra gap that they don't have another player for. That's why that when you run it at that, I'd like to see some of that, and then some play action off of that. And about who are playing the tight end as the sixth guy, you go ahead and max protect that, and you can throw a bunch of different combinations out there with that.
And we know Jordan Love can outthrow the coverage. I mean, we've seen him just like, we're just going to throw it over your head. You want to play 2 deep safety? Fine. Jordan Love, like the one to Christian Watson, if it's a 52-yard game, that's a 60 air yard throw. Like he just threw it over the coverage basically. And so those opportunities are there. And this Packers team, we saw last week, Coach, they started to run some of this gap scheme stuff where they're pulling guys and they're running counter trays and
well, that's what Kraft got hurt on.
Yep. And they were getting some movement on that. I mean, Dusty Evely over at Acme Packing Company tracked it. They ran, I think he said almost 30% of their runs were these gap scheme runs. And you're seeing sometimes it's single back power, sometimes it's long traps. Some of these where you're pulling a guy around, they were able to move guys in those situations. And against a front that wants to penetrate like the Eagles, like as long as you can just kind of get those guys out of the way and they don't totally blow up your run, like all of a sudden, if Jalen Carter wants to get up the field, all you got to do is kind of push him out of his gap. Yeah. And now you've got something. Yeah. And this is a team right now, 26th in efficiency adjusted for opponent, this Eagles run defense. Like I said, this is not the 2024 Eagles. This run defense has been susceptible this year. And so I think the Packers are going to be able to run the ball. I'd love to see them again, get into heavy and run it against that group and then make Vic Fangio and this Eagles defense adjust to that.
Yeah. They're going to, but I'm telling you, if they get into that with the sixth offensive lineman, how do you treat that? You treat that as 12, you treat that as 13. If both tight ends are on the field.
We're not going to throw to them. We know that.
No, but that's okay. We don't need to do that, but it'd be an extra protector right on the edge, and you can go full slide protection on that and just put Jacobs on the edge. But I'm really anxious to see how these guys approach this game personnel wise. I'm talking about our guys, right?
Yeah.
How do they feel that they best match up against the Eagles? That's gonna be fun to watch.
When you have a corner problem too, like one of the things in 2021, I've used this comparison before, but in 2021, the Packers could not run teams out of too high. They could not from a offensive line standpoint, the running game. Aaron Jones was in and out of the lineup that year. And one of the things that they did was they would go to some true 4 receiver sets.
10.
Yeah. And I was like, this is a deep Packers group. Like if Dontavian Wicks is going to come back to practice this week, if Matthew Golden is going to be okay, why not try and see what they're going to do against it just early in the game? Come on, first drive and see how they match up with 10. Yep. Are they going to play nickel to 10? Are they going to play dime? How are they going to do it? Because if they're going to play dime, now you feel like you can come down and run the ball against that look with all those light bodies on the field. You feel like you have the advantage. Christian Watson is a great blocker. Romeo Doubs can be a really good blocker. And just see what you can do there. Like, okay, Tucker Kraft is out. Okay, don't even put a tight end on the field. It's like when you have a pass rusher you think you can't block, coach. What do? You run a bunch of plays where you don't block them. Right. And you try and make that work. I think that could be something that we see here too. Like just get in 4 wide receivers and see what you can do. See how they're going to match up against that.
So here's the beauty about being in 10 personnel, the fronts that you're going to get to see the fronts.
Right.
I mean, you're going to get 3. You're going to get an odd, right? Both guards uncovered, one guard's covered. So you get an odd, even, both of them, or an under and over. That's all you're going to get. And you might get a little bit of bear, but it's so defined for the quarterback. It's so defined for those guys up front. Because a lot of times what happens if you're in 10 and they match up, it's a 5-man box. And, and if you can't run the ball against 5-on-5, it's going to be a long day.
You got a problem. So, okay. So coach, what kind of runs, if you're going to get into dime looks, let's say against 10, what kind of runs are you then thinking you want to call?
I mean, it's going to be inside or outside zone, inside or outside zone, because if you have an even look, counters are still good, right? If you have an odd look where both guards are uncovered, counters a little bit tougher to fit, right? But I mean, you should still run all your base stuff, right? Because guys, look, I mean, in a running game, you either run a gap scheme or a zone scheme. Really, that's all you got, inside, outside zone. And you might get a little bit of, I would get some RPOs when you get all that speed on the field. And if they want to go ahead and start bringing an extra guy into the box where they have 6, now you're off and running with the RPOs.
Each week, we bring you into our group chat. We discuss the things that we're talking about after the Packers lost to the Carolina Panthers. We'll break that all down coming up right after this. Today's midweek edition of the Locked On Packers Squad Show is brought to you by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. It is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. It has made every day feel a little bit more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. Each week, we bring you closer to the Locked On Packers Squad Show than ever before. We bring you into our group chat, and this week is no different. We're going to go to Monday. Coach, we're going to begin with you. At Monday afternoon, we digested that Packers game, that 16-13 loss, and then you had an interesting text that I found interesting. And your text says, and I quote, "The lack of production on the defense is concerning. Our talent is way better than the Panthers' beat-up offensive line. No pressures by number one." You're talking about Micah Parsons. It was his first career game, Coach, with 0 pressures against a Carolina offensive line that was banged up. He had 21 pass rush attempts, snaps, I should say. Bryce Young not throwing the ball a ton. But nothing from Rashawn Gary as well. Devontae Wyatt, you said in the group chat as well, was kind of a bit of a no-show for this team. And you also said you would call out the Packers defense. What were your thoughts when you sent that message, Coach, on truly how you felt about that Packers front seven?
Well, I mean, the thing is, when you have the highest paid guy, there's 42 million reasons he needs to get pressure and sacks, and there just is 42 million reasons for it. And here's the thing: when I say calling guys out, I'm not talking about making it personal. But what I am talking about is like, hey guys, look, I go, we got the best pass rusher in football. Gary's been super productive, and we're not getting any pressure. And I tell you what, I didn't see a lot of double teams on Parsons either this week. I don't know, Peter.
Well, he has the most double teams on.
I know, but last week though.
Snaps.
Last week, did he have a lot?
I don't think he goes a snap, Peter, without a double team. To be quite honest with you,
left tackle handled him a few times.
Peter's mic is muted, but on the other side, go ahead.
They did a lot of things to slow him down. They move him around so much that it is hard to double him. But the Panthers certainly had a plan for him. He got plenty of attention. That being said, like we mentioned Rashawn Gary. Where was Rashawn Gary? Your 2 backup guards. Where is Devontae Wyatt?
Yeah.
Like you should be able to create. If you're going to get Micah Parsons drew plenty of attention. Like this was not they were not like, we're going to let, Ike Ekwonu just play him one-on-one. They sent help when they could. but then that should make it easier for Rashawn Gary with one-on-ones. And that should make it easier for Devontae Wyatt. Did Carl Brooks play in the football game? Did Devontae Wyatt, those guys needed to do more. And this is a little bit in tandem to what we talked about at the top, what I mentioned with the aggressiveness from Matt LaFleur. I felt like I could have seen more run blitzes, more pressures to get double A gaps. They sent the one, right? I mean, we talked about that in the group chat. They sent the one where it was the cross dog and Edgerrin Cooper follows Micah Parsons, and you got to stop doing it. And they did it like once in the game. I was just sort of like, well, you could do that again at some point. Like that stuff works. And they just didn't do it. I'll be interested to see, Coach, the defensive approach here, because as I mentioned in the playoff game last year, they did not blitz Jalen Hurts a ton. They didn't even they kind of mush rushed him plenty. And they were just like, we don't think you can read this out. And I talked to Evan Williams about it on Locked On Packers in the offseason. And he was just like, we were on all their concepts. We knew what they were going to run. And we had it really well scouted. So this is a team that the Packers have seen. They saw him twice last year. So different offensive coordinator, different play caller, but it's the same personnel. So how different can you be if you're Philadelphia? How well scouted are you if you're the Packers? And so I think that brings an interesting wrinkle into all of this. It's like, okay, if you can just rush 4 with Micah Parsons, being Micah Parsons, we've seen him. He knows Jordan Mailata. He knows Lane Johnson. He's played against these guys twice a year his whole career. He's sacked Jalen Hurts. He's beat these guards and centers as an inside rusher. This is where you need Micah to be that dude in what you're able to do, down in and down out, because you're going to need 1 or 2 of those big plays. You're going to need 1 or 2 splash plays, whether it's a sacked fumble, whether it's a pressure that causes that ball to sail. They're going to have to do something. Now, I thought the defense played well enough, Brandon. You tell me if you disagree in the playoff game. I thought the defense played well enough for them to win that game. You lose Elton Jenkins the first series, Christian Watson already out. You lose Jaden Reed, you lose Romeo Doubs. I mean, he's throwing a Malik Heath and Christian Watson, or Malik Heath and Dontavian Wicks. You can only do so much in a game like that. But I felt like the defense had a great plan. I feel like they're going to come in with plenty of confidence to go, we can shut this team down. The offense just has to come through for us.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the playoff game too, is 3 interceptions from Jordan Love doesn't help, and you lost 22-10, and it still felt like, Peter, it
was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter.
All those pieces that you're talking about missing, and you still had an opportunity late in that game to win. And I think it is interesting because the Rashawn Gary part to me is the interesting part of the Packers front seven, right? You're going to get double teamed, at times triple teamed. You're going to get a chip off of Micah Parsons. But Rashawn Gary, Coach, I mean, the 4th lowest in the NFL, according to Next Gen Stats, as far as double teams, 3.5%. Now, he does have 7.5 sacks, but the issue I have, you guys, with Rashawn Gary is it's just inconsistent. I mean, 1 week we'll see a 2-sack game, and then we won't see another sack for 2 or 3 weeks. And when you have Micah Parsons, and hopefully Devontae Wyatt is getting back to being more healthier. I know he's been in, the last couple of weeks, but missed a handful of weeks due to that knee injury. And hopefully he, going forward, establishes himself a bit more. I have to see more from Rashawn Gary. And I'm going to say it too. I got to see more. I thought, Peter, in that Carolina game, I thought Quay Walker was subpar, and I thought Edgerrin Cooper were subpar. It felt like they were a bit flat-footed at times. It felt like they were a bit slow. I need to see more out of those guys as well, because that can be a huge difference. Because, Coach, you've mentioned Quay Walker on the show a few times, Coach. When he pops, and there's not a faster, harder hitting inside linebacker duo than those two guys. No, so I need to see a little bit more out of those guys as well. And obviously Rashawn Gary. Right.
Well, how about just the whole front seven, guys? Right. I mean, here's the deal. If I'm Parsons, and I'm not, wish I was, because kind of car would I have?
You wouldn't be sitting here talking to us. I'll tell you that, Coach.
I probably wouldn't. I'd be driving by you with a Lambeau, probably. But anyway, so here's the thing, right? I mean, one of the top players in the league that was a 0 last week, right? And he draws a lot of attention. But if he does, Gary's got to go. And Brandon, I think that stat you just brought up is he's the lowest guy with a 1-on-1.
4th lowest.
Yeah, 4th lowest. Holy cow, that's pretty damn good. But you can't double team everybody, right? You can't. So when we talk about that, when Parsons first got here, it's he's going to draw so much attention, but that'll free up everybody else, But I'd like to hear Gary's name. right?
Yeah.
We're saying
consistently, like you, and you don't have to give me the hard sack numbers, right? Give me the
No.
pressures.
But yeah, exactly.
Affect the ball game in different
Isn't that
ways.
funny that you're saying give me the pressure numbers, not the hard sack numbers, when the whole career it's been like, well, Rashawn Gary, a lot of pressures, but not a lot of sacks.
But I think it's different now, right? Like, and maybe that was the case when LVN was on the other side, Peter, but
who might come back this week, by the way.
Who might come back, which is also a big boost, hopefully, for that front seven for the Packers. And before he went down, I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but LVN was playing
good football, man.
Some of the best football against the pass, and especially against the run. But when it comes to Rashawn Gary, we have been saying that the sack numbers are there. I know his best year, I think before Halloween, he had all the sacks, and then after Halloween didn't have any. I just need to see a bit more consistency when it comes to Rashawn Gary.
Yeah.
You're the high draft pick. You got the big contract. You have Micah Parsons getting double teamed. If you're getting a lot of one-on-ones, I'm not asking you to win every matchup, but consistently, I got to see more from him going forward.
Is there anything better than having just one-on-one? Even if it's one-on-one coverage, right? You can't get any better. You can't get any better than that. So another thing too is like if they're sitting and Jeff's got those guys sitting in the defensive meeting room, and they look at the production numbers and they're all looking at each other and they're going like, we're better than that. We got to show up better than that.
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes like a loss is a springboard more than a win and on where you're going to go. So hopefully that'll be a jumping off point for these guys this week.
Our Locked On Packers midweek squad show, only an hour long, which on the surface I know seems like a long time, but believe it or not, there are a few things that we tend to miss or just simply couldn't get to. Our extra points coming up right after this. The Locked On Packers extra points segment. It's a fun segment where throughout the course of the week, there's a lot of things that we don't get to or that we want to get to, spend a little bit more time on it. And I'm going to start us off today because I'm excited about my extra point for this week. And I know losing, let's get the bad part out of the way. I know losing Tucker Kraft sucks. It's unfortunate. He was the Packers' best receiving target. He was a hell of a run blocker in the run game as well. It changes the dynamics. There's no doubt about it for this Packers offense. And you can look at putting the pressure on Matt LaFleur, putting the pressure on Jordan Love, and trying to get these guys to play better football. Coach, you've mentioned Christian Watson. We'll eventually see Jaden Reed and hopefully Matthew Golden. I know a lot of Packer fans, including myself, but I'm going to take a step back and just say, I don't know what's going to happen with number 88, but I would be lying to you if I told you I wasn't excited for Luke Musgrave. It's a guy that's battled through a ton of injuries. He fell on a ball, Coach, and busted his spleen. It ended his season. Like Peter had mentioned Peter had mentioned at the beginning of the show, there was not a guy that Packer fans in general, Coach, a lot of us didn't know Tucker Kraft because all we were hearing and seeing was Luke Musgrave when those two guys were drafted. They were drafted together, Luke in the second round and Tucker in the third round. Luke is the former second round pick. He now has a defined role, Peter, where he just hasn't really had that because of the inconsistencies with the injuries. And now he's going into this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. He knows Tucker Kraft's not behind him. He knows nothing against Fitzpatrick, but he's not behind him. He now has an opportunity to kind of carve out his name for this team, for this offense, a team chasing the division, still atop the NFC North, still in contention for the top seed in the NFC. I hope Matt LaFleur, as you mentioned it, Peter, calls to his strengths, plays to his strengths. He's not going to be the road grader that Tucker Kraft is in the run game. And I don't want people to compare what Luke does versus what Tucker did. They're two completely different players. Luke's strengths are a bit different than Tucker's strengths, and that's not a bad thing. I'm excited for number 88, and I don't know what he's going to do. I'm rooting for him. I'm sure all Packer fans are, but I want everybody to give him a chance and be happy for him for what he's had to go through and the opportunities that are now in front of him.
Brandon, this is fortuitous. I'm currently reading this book by Adam Grant called Hidden Potential. And one of the things that they talk about in there is this, we have this phenomenon in sports, Coach, I'm sure you've experienced it, where you lose your best player. And what you do is you find out that you've got all these other guys that can do this other stuff. And when the best player comes back, all of a sudden your team is better for it because now you understood what these other guys could do. I think that could be what happens with Green Bay because you see, okay, Matthew Golden is going to have this opportunity. Luke Musgrave is going to have this opportunity. And we haven't had that chance for this team. My extra point. One of the things in that playoff game, Brandon, is in the second half, Jordan Love said, I'm not gonna go broke taking a profit. And it was dump off after dump off to Josh Jacobs underneath. And Josh Jacobs did a lot of good work in that game. They just couldn't finish with touchdowns. I wonder if, number one, we see that more. We haven't seen Josh Jacobs be a big part of the passing game so far this season. I wonder if we see a little bit more of that this week with the 2-eye shell that they're going to see. The other part of this is, and I know they don't have Jaden Reed, and I think that they would have used Jaden Reed in this scenario. But what about they want to do all this, gadgety stuff for Savion Williams. What about putting Savion Williams in the backfield with Josh Jacobs? And now or maybe better yet, Chris Brooks. And now when that soft zone, when everybody backs up, you're going to throw this underneath to Savion Williams. And now on 3rd and 8, you get him against a linebacker one-on-one, and he can just go and make some plays happen. We saw Josh Jacobs rip off some big chunks in that second half against the Eagles last year. I wonder if that's a wrinkle that they go to. We see a lot of teams do this. Let's put a receiver in the backfield, split him out, and then inevitably you get him matched up on a linebacker, and good things can happen. That's just something that I have my eye on here as we look toward Monday night.
Yeah.
Coach, your extra point of the week?
Yeah. Doug Peterson. He was great. He could steal signals so good, but he would always say checkdowns are your friend. Check, if you don't have it, just keep checking it. Just keeps you alive. So to your point, Brandon, to your point, everybody has an opportunity, and you got to be ready to go when that opportunity comes your way. And that's the way you always have to prepare. I want to see Musgrave compete and frickin' shine. I didn't know both those guys were 2nd, 3rd round picks. Those are high picks for tight ends now.
He's talented. He's really physically gifted. Coach, he's 6'6", 250. He was a mogul skier in high school. That's how athletic this guy is. He is a special athlete.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. The thing is, what's really cool, like when you'd go to the combine and you'd have all the tight ends standing up next to each other, they were all clones of each other. They were all 6'4" to 6'6", 235 to 255. They all look the same. And when you look around the league, that's what you see. But I'd really like to see him. He's going to get an opportunity, and I'd really like to see him shine, Brandon, as good as, he's as advertised. I really would. The last thing I wanted to point out is like our kicker. Here's my extra point. I don't know.
I knew it was coming.
Well, someone had to bring it up. It's one of those things like you're at Thanksgiving dinner and there's your uncle bringing up something that's just why
you're going to bring up Mom Donnie or something. Yeah,
exactly. Right. But is he healthy? If he's not, let's bring 35 back. Yeah. Let him do that. We can't miss extra point. We can't. Yeah. When you get down in the red zone, we were 1 of 5. Terrible. That just doesn't work. You got to come away with points.
And he's missing give me's like a
41 yarder. And I watched it again because I was doing the Luke Musgrave deep dive, and I just was like, let me just watch this again. It's not close. I mean, he missed that. He missed that kick by 10 yards.
Guys, he's hurt.
And I made the suggestion. I made the suggestion that they should have IR'd him and let Lucas be up here for a month, and let McManus heal up. And Matt LaFleur talks about the long, the long play and this and making sure he's healthy for this team for a late playoff push. But I feel like Brandon McManus rushed himself back because he saw how good and how consistent Lucas Haversick was. He set a franchise record, for God's sakes, and
was like still on the roster, guys. That's the weird part.
He is, and he's not going anywhere.
And let me add my extra point to coaches. My prediction here is they will both be active on game day. I bet you, because they're both on the roster last week. Wow. They were not both active. Only McManus was. I bet they're both active. And if McManus misses a kick early, it's hey, come sit next to me. That's going to be Matt LaFleur. Come sit next to me, and the other guy's going to go in. I think that's what we're going to see. I really do.
Man, that's let's get into the score predictions in this one. I'll start us off with the Packers and Eagles Monday Night Football at Lambeau Field. The Packers coming off of a tough loss against the Panthers. The Eagles coming off of a bye week prior to that. They beat the Giants. There's something about this Packers team. We talked about it. They play up, they play down to their competition. I think the Packers win by 10. I have it 31-21. There's something about prime time with this team, Peter and Coach, under the bright lights, when their backs are against the wall. Matt LaFleur does his best job. Jordan Love does his best job. We saw it in that game against the Steelers just a few weeks ago. I know everybody's upset about this Panthers game. we're coming off a historic performance a week prior to that with Jordan Love in this offense. So I still believe in
Everyone
this
had the Packers
offense.
in the Super Bowl a week ago.
Exactly. So I still believe in this team. I think I'm with Peter. I know you mentioned it earlier in the show. I haven't been bought in all season long to this Philly team. I'm still not bought in. I know they made all the noise, at least some of the noise at the NFL trade deadline with Jalen Phillips and Jair Alexander. Don't really care. Doesn't move the needle whatsoever for me. I got the Packers 31, the Eagles 21. Coach, who you got?
It's going to be 28-24. I mean, here's the thing that the Packers can't do. Did I take your point, Peter?
Yeah, I was going to say 27-24. So we're right.
You can still do that. We'll go with Jersey Mike sub on that one. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that they can't allow to happen is to allow whatever happened last Sunday affect this Sunday. Rather than in the positive.
Don't let
way.
one mistake become two.
Exactly. But 28-24 is what I'm saying.
Yeah, our friends at FanDuel have the over-under at 44.5, so they don't see this being a high-scoring game, which I think is interesting. That means 24-21 would be the score. So okay, so you had 28-24. Just for diversity's sake, I was going to say 27-24. I will say officially here 24-21. Packers win. That's the Packers cover.
We're all pretty close, aren't we?
In the over.
We all got the Packers winning. Our friends at FanDuel, 2.5 point favorites for the Packers. I think
they've been 2.5 points all week, and that the juice has actually gone up. So that means there's money coming in on Green Bay. So that means the betting markets.
Well, they're at home.
They think the Packers are still going to be up for this. I do too.
Dropped a home game against the Panthers. We'll see if they can rebound against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night. Friendly reminder, the Locked On Packers Squad Show and the Daily Show with our guy Peter there. Free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts as well as over on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. For Peter Bukowski, for Coach Jags, and for myself, we will sign off for now. Remember, our guy Peter's got you covered all week long, including over the weekend into Monday Night Football. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you listen. Make sure you subscribe. And then after that final whistle on Monday night, Peter will go live for a 30-minute post-game show. And then, you guessed it, you get all three of us, for an extra 60 minutes, an hour and a half of Packers post-game talk right here on Locked On Packers. As always, thanks to each and every one of you guys for tuning in. Thank you for making Locked On Packers part of your day each and every single day. And as always, stay Locked On Packers.